and I'll pass it over to Oliver to get started, and then we'll have some questions at the end.
Thank you, Tamsin. Thank you for being here. I'm very happy to be able to share my thoughts and vision in this conference. So before I start with the presentation, I would like to say a few words to the honorable members of the Tourism and Leisure Studies Research Network, to distinguished conference participants. So ladies and gentlemen, I would like to express my appreciation to the organizers for inviting me to attend this year's conference on tourism and leisure studies as a plenary speaker. I'm honored to have the opportunity to share my deliberations on after-pandemic challenges and opportunities for tourism development with experts who truly understand the nature of tourism and the extent of its multifaceted impacts. Certainly, the online format of the conference made it more difficult for organizers to encourage and gather us around this common platform in order to enable the exchange of ideas, experiences, and research results. Hence, I would like to commend the organizers for high level of organization and professionalism. Now I will start with the presentation. I will first have to share the desktop. Okay, just let me know if everything is okay. You can hear me, you can see me somewhere in the corner, and you can see my presentation. Great, thank you. Okay, the title of my presentation was or actually is now, but it was for some time, that I wanted actually to exchange one idea of rethinking tourism development from over-tourism to regenerative tourism. So my presentation will go from the introduction over 3 sections up to conclusion section. In section A, I will tell something about the past, about the tourism as we remember. Then the section B is about tourism during the COVID-19 pandemic crisis. This is tourism in the new normal. And the section C, which is actually the key point of this presentation, is to share with you the vision of tourism it might be in years that are coming. So for introduction, I would like to tell that this is the presentation which have time frame observing past, present, and future. The approach is actually, I used the generic cost-benefit analysis, although this is not a true cost-benefit analysis, but just wanted to show some costs and benefits from each of these 3 periods of time. The purpose of this presentation is to discuss crisis as a chance for rethinking, so it can be considered as a wake-up call. And finally, the aim of the presentation is to encourage some discussion within the academic society. So let's go and to see what tourism was as we remember, and what tourism could have been actually successfully accomplished during the past several decades, let's say. But let's see what happened in 2019 as the last full tourist year as we remember as successful. So according to United Nations World Tourism Organization database, there were close to 1.5 billion international tourist arrivals, 1.5 trillion international tourism receipts, 1.7 trillion of exports from international tourism, which actually was about 7% of global exports, or 28% of world services exports. Also, it is worth to mention that the structure of the motivation for people to travel, there was let's say some constant shares of various types of how to say motivation that people were attracted to or were just encouraged to travel. 55% traveled for leisure, recreation, and holidays, 28% of visiting friends and relatives, health and religion, and finally 11% of those who travel for business or professional purposes. All these data have been changed recently. So as you remember, tourism in context of the benefits, tourism is considered as a powerful tool for economic and social development, generating growth, income, employment, and well-being, for poverty alleviation, particularly in least developed countries, especially small countries, island countries, remote countries, and so on. Infrastructure development, even distribution of income and investments among countries. So for more initializing positive changes within local communities, integrating local cultural values with the global market, bringing together different ethnic groups and strengthening relations between them, and creating a peace and a goodwill. So in general, tourism was considered, or still is considered, as a panacea for solving various economic and social problems. So on account of all these benefits, of course, we have to consider also some costs. So the past has taught us that there was a huge growth in international arrivals, especially to some destinations worldwide. So we had to face with over-tourism in many of those popular tourism destinations. We also faced over-commercialization of local resources and cultural values. We were thinking about and analyzing spillover effects. The smaller the country, the greater the spillover effect. Then we were thinking about growing environmental issues, particularly pollution. We were discussing about degradation of space in destinations. We were discussing about gentrification process, that local population is actually leaving their place of residence and living there or selling their apartments, houses for tourism purposes. And finally, according to Iridex model, we found that tourism was so overdeveloped that local population started to act in an intolerant way, or just or also to feel a little bit of or more xenophobia towards tourists. So what we could learn from the past? First of all, people travel for true experiences. They travel for attractions and positive emotions. Tourism brings welfare to local community. Tourism development must be properly planned and managed. And also, tourism has capability to destroy itself according to the economic effects that are quite interesting and attractive to many communities, but for those who didn't follow some guidelines to make it more sustainable. But in that context, tourism sustainability model doesn't work in every environment. So it was proved not only by the theory, but also in practice. So let's now move to the next part, which is actually related to the new normal. COVID-19 brought tremendous changes in everyday life, including of those of perceiving and thinking about travel. 73% drop in international tourism led to the loss of 900 million international tourist arrivals, $3.1 trillion in visitor spending, 5% or $4.5 trillion in global GDP, 935 billion in tourism exports, US dollars, of course, and 62 millions of jobs. So this is the consequence that of the demand who actually changed dramatically in all meanings. So the international tourist performance, according to what we had 2019 and what we had 2020 and this 2020-21, the international tourist performance has been downgraded to the level of 30 years ago. So UN WTO made some projections when we will recover, when we will come back to at least to the level of 2019. So they made a few scenarios when it will be better for all people in the tourism system when all these things will come back and recover to the point where they can start or continue work normally. So they made few scenarios. These scenarios are quite changing, and this can be observed in a very long run. So they just made some projections how these figures will be during this 2021. So as I did for the past period, I did also some cost benefit analysis for this COVID period. So what we have about from the benefits. First, redistribution of tourism demand. There were some occurrence of some new patterns of travel. This is important because this will affect how supply side of tourism will behave or react in the next several years. Nature-based activities and destinations are getting more attractive. So people started to turn off the urban settings and overcrowded destinations that sort of must-see destinations. They turn to the destinations who developed some special interest tourism, which are related to nature-based resources and activities. There were also new opportunities for small tourism receiving communities. So this nature-based concept, which is more suitable for small tourism communities, is the best way how to move a little bit forward for what they have and what the global tourism market can offer to them. So family-based accommodation facilities and camping sites are more demanded than large hotels. Another aspect is also important. This is digital content and communication in tourism, which got a new dimension, which means that what is on a digital platform, what is in digital sphere of doing business, it's something that is acceptable. If not, people or just service providers or companies are losing their market. So this digital content is quite important for the future doing business in tourism. What's next? Tourism demand have rediscovered multi-generational family trips. First, family-oriented trips, but also multi-generational trips, which is quite a good aspect of getting people in sort of well-known environment to travel somewhere which was actually appealing to a certain family. A seismic shift toward remote work emerged the digital nomad travels. This is something that COVID didn't invent, but it just boosts this trend more in front. So many destinations who suffered a great loss in how to say in filling their capacities with tourists. They found this concept as a good opportunity for them to make or to better utilize their capacities. And the rise of online studies and courses is something that is important for schools, for faculties, for colleges that can actually on the platform that we use for academic communication. It can be also developed for later on for some online studies, which is actually not such a new concept, but these studies and courses can be something that is new to portfolio of studies among all these institutions. What which costs actually was brought by COVID pandemic situation? First is social distancing caused decrease in tourism demand. As I said, people have turned to their families, to smaller communities. to get away from the urban settings, and they actually were geographically more, how to say, dispersed in space. So the next is the closure of many small and family tourism businesses. Unfortunately, they are very vulnerable, and all these businesses are actually had small chances to survive during these pandemics. Long-haul business travel and event industry were affected the most, of course, because of the collection or collecting a lot of people in one place. Unlike the long-haul travels, which actually take a long way and connecting flights and so on, which also makes this travel a little bit risky. Because of all time connecting to other people. Small and least developed countries are affected the most, as I said already before. Further on, the major disruption in airline and hotel businesses, especially for large hotels or hotel chains worldwide. What is the next cost is delivery of many tourism services became difficult and challenging, of course. If we consider, for example, wellness services and so on, this is quite tricky for them to avoid any health how to say guidelines in terms of spreading the virus from them to other customers or customers in between each other. Further on, the perception of travel as a risk. This is something that will stay in our minds for the next several years. This is something that will also limit to a certain extent the way how we behave in terms of being a traveler at the domestic market or international market, or using some special interest tourism as more risky or less risky to be there and to participate in some activities. Then the possibility of world recession. This is something that is quite, how to say, it's quite what we can expect, yeah, that will occur during all these problems and that we had during the pandemics, and actually all the money that companies were actually redistributing from their core business to cover some expenses related to increased health and hygiene aspects. This is something that might lead to a world recession, not only for these problems what I mentioned, but also because of many jobs that are lost and so on. And finally, increasing role of human resource managers in reducing costs. Today, it's quite difficult to optimize what and which and how many of workforce we need for the following season. So what we could learn from the crisis. First, economy's dependence on tourism brings vulnerability. This is what we felt really strongly in Croatia. Next is that travel should not be taken for granted. Today we can travel, tomorrow who knows what will happen. So if we have the chance to travel, we should use it. Health and safety aspects will remain major concerns. This is already what I told. The true value of socialization. Yeah, this is something that came up as a consequence of total lockdown. Then we started to think about reinventing the local in tourism. We were before we were more focused not on local values, but on the values that tourism as a system brings. So this is something which is important and it will be considered a little bit later. Domestic travel can also be appealing. Yeah, a lot of people forgot that that domestic market has a lot to offer in terms of various attractions, amenities for tourists. Further on is digitalization of sales and promotion, which are today is, I think, the most important aspect of doing in both of these areas, doing some activities. Communication is a key aspect also. Easily accessible, accurate, and timely information is something that tourists expect, that not only tourists or visitors, but also our partners, business partners, who expect to have full information about the condition on each market in each destination. Decision-making process is shortened in terms of the consumer behavior, and last-minute booking is something that is not a new concept, but it is quite emphasized by this COVID pandemic crisis. And what we experienced in Croatia, the size of shadow economy is larger than we thought. I didn't have any chance to see some researchers from other markets or other countries, but this is something that we were surprised in Croatia, to which extent this shadow economy actually is expanded. So let's move now to the third part to see what is the vision of tourism it might be. So what we need actually more in next several years. We need more professionalism in tourism. We need more controllable development and managed growth. We need resident first approach in planning and strategic goals setting for the next couple of years. We need more focus on quality instead of quantity to increase the demand or consumption, let's say, maybe better, to increase consumption instead of number of people. What is next? We need more awareness of local resources. We need more transparency of public resources usage. We need more collaboration amongst stakeholders, more balancing costs and benefits, innovations in creativity. We need more new mindsets, new ideas, which will bring us to the new results. We need true consumer values and experiences. We need to improve or need more trust between each other, positive attitudes, happiness, empowerment for local communities to drive tourism recovery, data and knowledge-driven planning, and finally, more than a sustainable concept. Well, what we need less. So what we have learned from the past, from the present, what we need less. We need less overdeveloped and overcrowded destinations. We need less consumption-driven development. We need less economic output maximizing policies. We need less overburden of tourism development on local community. Large collective accommodation facilities, corporative-led governance of tourism planning and development, skepticism and misunderstanding about tourism power, and we need less, of course, anxiety and insecurity. So what we are thinking about the future, we have to start to think about different concepts, different methods, different way of how to do business in order to preserve the resources we have. We are all aware that tourism has already changed to a certain extent, and thus we need to be ready for recovery, resetting, reconstructing, reinventing, rejuvenating, reconnecting. But the question is, are we really ready for that? So we are now skipping to the concept, which is not a new concept. It's concept from different industries, but we actually, during the past several years, we are really thinking about this, especially in Europe, where we are facing with over-tourism. So this concept is something that is adopted from other industries, as I said, and it's quite interesting to think about the way how to develop tourism in a regenerative way. So the concept is inspired by nature and traditional agriculture, while the bottom line is doing better, doing less harm. Regenerative travel is about leaving the place better than we found. Or if we try to define what the regenerative tourism development is, it is to increase the total value of the place, but continuously, not from season to season, from some aspects to another aspects, but continuously by taking into account all the aspects which are really necessary to make this development balanced. When different parts of the system are coming into balance, they are feeding each other. So this is what we learn from nature, and that's the approach that can be also used for tourism development. Now we are coming to conclusion. Tourism can be considered also as a driver of both positive and negative changes. Tourism is demand-driven market, which means that demand will actually guide us in terms of planning and strategic positioning and so on, what to do and when to do. Next, tourism will recover sooner than we expect. Of course, in these uncertain times, we are thinking about for how long this crisis will last. But this crisis will end in certain point, in certain moment. And what then? Are we ready for this moment? So really, I have actually a lot of my colleagues think that tourism will recover sooner than we expect. All issues that we were faced with tourism development in past times, all the issues will become bigger without proper actions. So we have to start acting now. Over-tourism for some destinations might become game over tourism. So we have to think about how to redirect all this, how to redirect all these trends in favor of our destination to become more sustainable, more regenerative. And finally, sustainable concept is important, we all know, but it seems that it's not enough. It's mostly considered as a document, as a set of guidelines that some people somewhere in government, whether local, regional, or national, will have to take care of all these aspects in a certain way. And this sustainable concept can be considered to some extent as an outdated. So we definitely need something more, something which is not only a paper, which is not only a document, which is something that is a concept that each of us can actually identify with this concept, and to preserve something that we have, and this is something beautiful called tourism. Thank you for your attention. I'm glad that that I can answer all your questions, or if you have some comments, of course.